Hello and welcome. You are listening to the Happier Life podcast. I'm your host, Claire Deacon. After deciding survival wasn't enough, I set out on a path to live my best life. I wanted to thrive. Now I'm on a mission to support others. Think you're not good enough, confident enough, brave enough? I'm here to tell you you are, and you can achieve anything. This is your time, so let's do this. Hello and welcome to the Happier Life podcast, where we dive into the messy, beautiful journey of moving beyond survival and into a life that actually feels good. I'm Claire Deacon, your host, positive psychology coach, and the friend who's here to remind you that you are not your worst habits. You are not stuck. And today we are going to talk about something that so many of us struggle with, but rarely realize, and that's self-sabotage. So let's be honest. Have you ever set yourself a goal, got really excited about it, and then somewhere along the way, totally wrecked it for yourself? Maybe you procrastinated until the last minute. Maybe you ghosted an opportunity. Maybe you convinced yourself that you weren't ready or good enough. And then you thought, why do I always do this? What's wrong with me? If you've ever been there, first of all, I see you. Second, you are not broken, lazy, or lacking willpower. Self-sabotage is not about being undisciplined. It's about unprocessed fears, hidden beliefs, and old protective mechanisms that no longer serve you. So today we're going to be breaking it all down. We're going to be talking about what self-sabotage actually is, why we do it, how it gets wired into us in the first place, and most importantly, how we can stop holding ourselves back and start moving forward. And if at any point you're thinking, this is me, I need to break this cycle, I just don't know how, I've got you. So you can book a call with me, or if talking feels like too much, drop me an email and I'll send you some resources. All right, let's get into this. So self-sabotage is one of those things that sounds quite dramatic, like something only movie villains would do. But in reality, it's one of the most common and subtle ways we keep ourselves stuck. It's that job opportunity we don't apply for, the relationship we push away, the healthy habit we drop just as we're starting to feel good. So why do we do it? Why would we ruin something we actually want? So here's what's happening beneath the surface. Your brain is designed to keep you safe, and safety to your brain doesn't always mean happiness. It means predictability. Even if you're unhappy in your comfort zone, it's familiar. Your brain knows how to handle it. But stepping into something new, whether that's success, love, confidence, or a big life change, that represents uncertainty. And uncertainty feels like danger. So your brain does what it's wired to do. It pulls you back to safety, and it does this in ways that seem logical at first, like procrastination. I'll start tomorrow. Spoiler alert, tomorrow never comes. Perfectionism. If I can't do it perfectly, then why bother? Fear of failure. What if I try and I fail? Then you have fear of success. What if I succeed and can't handle it? Overcommitting. If I keep myself too busy, I won't have to face this. Or avoidance. Let me just scroll Instagram for an hour instead. Do any of those sound familiar to you? I have to admit, there's some in there that are definitely familiar to me at times. So now let's talk about how this gets wired into us in the first place. Most self-sabotaging behaviors start early in life. As children, we pick up messages about who we need to be in order to be safe, accepted, or loved. Maybe you were taught that mistakes were unacceptable, so now perfectionism stops you from even trying. Maybe you saw a parent burn out from chasing success, so your brain tells you that staying small is safer. Maybe love and validation were conditional, so you push people away before they have a chance to leave you. Whatever the reason, these patterns get reinforced over time. And because your brain values familiarity over happiness, even the behaviors that are hurting you can weirdly feel comforting. And here's the thing, so often people throw imposter syndrome into the mix here as if it's just another thing we need to push through. But let's get one thing straight. Imposter syndrome is not just feeling uncomfortable or doubting yourself. It has been overused in ways that dilute its real meaning. And I'll be covering that in another episode because pushing through the fear or just snapping out of it is not helpful if you're actually experiencing true imposter syndrome. And this is where I get on my soapbox a little bit. The well-being industry is full of shortcuts and just think positive solutions that do more harm than good. And even though my business is called Happya and I'm a positive psychology expert, I'm not here for that. I'm not here to just give you those quick wins, to just tell you to find happiness and think positive. I'm here to bring you the real science-backed approaches that honor where you are right now and help you to move forward in a way that has longevity and actually works. Okay, so we know what self-sabotage is, but how do we stop doing it? How do we move past the fear and actually allow ourselves to grow? Let's make this relatable. So think about these kind of situations. You get an amazing work opportunity, but instead of preparing, you leave it to the last minute, or you find a reason why you're not ready yet for it. You finally start setting boundaries in a relationship, but then you feel guilty and start backtracking. Maybe you commit to a personal project you're excited about, but then suddenly you're too busy or too tired or you're just not feeling it. What's really happening here? It's not that you don't want these things, it's that some part of you associates them with risk. Risk of failure, risk of judgment, risk of losing control over how others perceive you. So, how do we change that? Name it. When you catch yourself self-sabotaging, slow down and name what's happening. Say it out loud if you can. I see what's happening. I'm avoiding this because it feels risky. And you can add why it feels risky. The act of naming it actually interrupts the automatic cycle and gives you a chance to respond differently. This is really important, so I want to repeat it. If you can name it, you can change it. Let's say you keep putting off submitting an application for something you really want. On the surface, you're telling yourself, oh, well, I'll do that tomorrow. But if you name what's really happening, maybe you realize, I'm afraid I won't get it in, and avoiding it feels safer than risking rejection. Do you see how that shifts things? Once you name it, you can start challenging the thought instead of letting it dictate your actions. Challenge the thought is your next step. So ask yourself, is this actually true? Or is this just an old fear talking? If your mind is saying, I'm not good enough for this, is that a fact? Or is that just a thought you've carried with you from past experiences? If your brain says, if I fail, people will think I'm a joke, is that objectively true? Or is that just a fear of judgment may never even happen? Our brains love to assume the worst, but just because a thought exists doesn't make it true. Thoughts are just that, thoughts. You do not have to believe everything your brain tells you. So do the opposite. If you normally procrastinate, take one small action right now. Open the document, send the email, make the call, whatever it is that you need to do to move the needle forward. If you usually avoid something because it feels uncomfortable, lean in with curiosity instead of running from it. The key here is small actions. You don't have to take a giant leap. You just have to prove to yourself that you can move forward despite the discomfort. So, what's really important here is to regulate your nervous system. So, if that change feels overwhelming, it's because your nervous system is triggered and is in fight or flight mode. You're not just thinking your way into fear, but your body is physically reacting to it. And that's why logic alone doesn't always work. So, for this, you can try deep breathing, grounding exercises, or even shaking out the tension that's in your body. And my guide, Tired, Wired, has these solutions planned out for it. So, you can sign up for those and get hold of those sent straight to your inbox. Your brain needs to feel safe in order to take action. And regulating your nervous system is a direct way to signal that safety. So give yourself permission to grow. You do not have to stay where you are just because it's familiar. You are allowed to move forward, even if it feels uncomfortable at first. Growth really isn't about never feeling fear. It's about taking action despite of it. So, some final thoughts. Self-sabotage can feel like an endless loop. It can feel like every time you get close to something good, you somehow manage to pull yourself back. But I want you to hear me when I say this is not who you are. It is just a pattern, and patterns can be rewritten. You're not stuck. You are not just like this. You are not doomed to repeat the same cycle forever. And I get it. Change can feel terrifying, even good change, even the kind of change you want. Because what happens if you try and fail? What happens if you succeed and everything shifts? What happens if people see the real you, the one who is actually capable and powerful and ready? So that's a lot to take in, I know. So instead of trying to fix self-sabotage overnight, I want you to start with one thing. Take a small step forward. Pick the thing you've been putting off, the thing you keep talking yourself out of, the thing you actually want but are maybe a little afraid to claim, and take a step. Send the email, make the call, say yes. It doesn't have to be a giant leap. It just has to be movement. And if you're ready to dive deeper into this work and really start breaking the cycle, then let's talk. So book a call with me. We'll figure out what's keeping you stuck and we can create a plan to move forward. Let me know how you get on, how that feels for you. And even if you send me an email telling me that first step that you are taking, that commitment and that positivity of taking action will help you manage with that discomfort. So, if this episode has resonated with you, please share it with someone who might need to hear it too. You never know who's battling their own self-sabotage in silence. So, until next time, be kind to yourself. You are allowed to move forward. If you've enjoyed this episode, ensure you hit subscribe, head on over to my website happyacoach.com, sign up for the weekly newsletter, and let me support you in living a happier life. I'm your host, Claire Deacon. Thank you for listening. Have a fabulous day.